Alright, I'm kind of on a roll right now, so I'm just going to keep going. Today, I'm going to be ranking the Carrie movies. And yes, believe it or not, there is a franchise. It's not just one or two movies. There is actually a franchise. For some reason. Anyway, my number 4 is The Rage Carrie 2. Credit where it's due, this movie had good intentions. It had strong social commentary about sexuality in teenagers and the double standard of how men versus women are treated when they're sexually promiscuous. So I gotta give him credit for that, because in 1999 that was a much bigger deal than it is now. Emily Bergel is really good in the lead role, far better than this movie deserves.
Is that scary for you?
What do you mean?
It's perfectly normal to be afraid of turning out like your parents.
Come on. I know I'm 10 times more likely to get it than most people.
And the soundtrack is pretty good too. Unfortunately, none of that can make up for the fact that this movie is a mess. The directing is amateur, the writing is subpar, the rest of the acting is pretty bland. The fact that it's a sequel to Carrie drags it down, because the connection is forced and it does more harm than good. It's like Book of Shadows' Blair Witch 2. It would have been better off, or at least better received, if it had been marketed as just a standalone movie and not a sequel. Really, the only good that comes out of the connection is that we get a confirmation on how many people died in the first movie. But that's really about it.
The night of the prom. 73 people died.
The Rage Carrie 2 is bad, but fascinating. My number 3 is probably the most obscure of the 4 movies. The 2002 TV movie, Carrie. Starting off with the positives. Angela Bettis is genuinely great as Carrie. She really makes the character her own. Her version of Carrie is less of a clueless, innocent victim and more aware of her status as a social outcast.
Hey, Ross. Ross. I think somebody wants you to help her to see God. You know, God. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Oh, oh, God. Oh, oh, yeah. You ass. Oh, my nose bleeding, dude. No, seriously, come on. No, do I get it? Oh.
Most of the kills are pretty good, and I do like that we actually get to see Carrie destroy the town this time around. This is the only adaptation that has featured that. It's cool to see, even though the special effects aren't very good. Speaking of which, I haven't read the book yet, but from what I know, this is the most faithful adaptation. There's the town destruction, which I already mentioned. They use interviews as a framing device. And also, Carrie kills her mother by stopping her heart instead of stabbing her. My one mixed aspect for this movie is, well, the rest of the cast. They range from pretty good to pretty awful. Moving on to the negatives. This movie is long and this movie is boring. There are long stretches where nothing interesting happens. From a technical standpoint, it's okay. It's kind of meh. You can tell it's a TV movie. My score for this one is 2 out of 5. Moving on up, my number 2 is Carrie 2013. This movie does a pretty good job updating the story for modern times. Most of the acting is on point. Ansel Elgort, who is in his film debut here, is pretty good. And Julianne Moore is great as Margaret White. She does a good job differentiating her version of the character from the other two versions. In the original movie, Margaret seems to be kind of spiteful, whereas in this one, she's still crazy, but she seems to want to protect her daughter.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is.
The pacing is much better than the 2002 film, and overall, it's well made from a technical standpoint.
Come on.
Are you seeing this?
Wait.
Come on!
Unfortunately, the weakest link in the cast is the lead. I love Chloe Grace Moretz. She is great in Kick-Ass, she is great in Let Me In, but in this movie, she's just not. She gives the weakest portrayal of Carrie. It's not that her performance is bad, it's just too much like Sissy Spacek's performance to stand on its own. And aside from the modern updates, this movie doesn't really cover any new ground like the 2002 movie did. It's more of a remake of the 1976 film than it is a separate adaptation of the novel, honestly. It's not an inherently bad thing, I just wish they had done something different, is all. And obviously, my number 1 is the original Carrie. This movie is like a borderline masterpiece. It is a true work of art from two masters of their respective art forms, Stephen King and Brian De Palma. From what I know, Carrie is a respectful adaptation that is different enough from the source material to stand on its own. Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie both give fantastic performances, and Nancy Allen, Amy Irving, and Betty Buckley are also great.
What visited he with a curse? The curse was a curse of blood.
You should have told me, Mama. You should have told me.
Oh, Lord, help the sinning woman see the sin of her days and ways. Show her that if she had remained sinless, the curse of blood would never have come on her.
The direction is on point. The writing is great. The cinematography is fantastic, and the climax is truly outstanding.
Trust me, Carrie. Trust me, Carrie.
Carrie! 'Cause 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 '
have one very small negative. When Christine and Billy are driving and she starts to go down on him, she is somehow able to talk while doing that. Do I even need to explain? This is a phenomenal movie. I absolutely love it. My score is 5 out of 5.